Of September 2021, we kick-started off the week with celebrations of the World Tourism Day. The tourism sector has been one of those greatly affected economic sectors across the world, with the fact that there has always been limited movement as restrictions from different governments have actually set out red flags on different on different countries where they would say this is not a no-go zone for any tourists. Reason being, they were actually breeding more of COVID-19 situations. And this did not leave out only Uganda, but across the world. It was a very huge slap. We're heading into our topical analysis in regards to the Uganda Tourism Board that has actually set to prioritize consistent, sustainable growth as we were celebrating the Tourism Day, International Tourism Day. Now, the Executive Director of National Planning Authority, Joseph Muvawala, urged the Uganda Tourism Board to prioritize consistent, sustainable growth. Muvawala says that the inclusive growth comes after sustainable growth, urging the tourism sector to as well invest in development and marketing. And I will definitely agree with what Dr. Joseph Muvawala had to say in this particular incident. Is marketing is the way to go in tourism, because we are now in a situation where only domestic tourists where we are supposed to focus more on the domestic tourists. We cannot rule out the foreign tourists, mainly in Uganda. But then you have to rely on the fact that what if something else happens and you're not encouraging? Had we not encouraged the domestic tourists to actually take part in the tourism sector, who knows where the tourism sector would have been in Uganda? It would have definitely collapsed, because the country was genuinely basing on the foreign tourists, claiming that only those are the ones considered as tourists. That is why in the 42-day lockdown, when domestic tourists were limited from movement, and the foreigners were accepted to move, most Ugandans came out and cried out to the government saying, why would someone coming from another country after being vaccinated looms freely in a country, and yet us who have also been vaccinated cannot be accepted to move? So those are some of the questions that Ugandans were actually posing out to the government and actually citing unfairness by the government. Now, Uganda Tourism Board has since 13 years ago grown the number of tourist arrivals by 78%, from 844,000 in 2008-2009 to 1.5 million in 2018 to 2019, so prior to 2020 when the pandemic was kicking its leg into the economy. This is slightly above global growth rates of 63% in the same period. As a result, sector foreign exchange earnings have nearly tripled, growing by more than 171%, from 590 million US dollars to 1.6 million US dollars to 1.6 billion US dollars in the same period. Reports from the Uganda Tourism Board indicates that currently the tourism industry, directly and indirectly, creates 667,600 jobs, 77% of whom are youth aged 18 to 30 years and account for 7.7% of the gross domestic product. The Executive Director, Joseph Muvawala, has also called on officials from the Uganda Tourism Board to prioritize consistent, sustainable growth, then after inclusive growth, urging them to invest in development and marketing. He revealed this at the commemoration of the World Tourism Day in Kampala under a theme of tourism for inclusive growth during the celebration of the World Tourism Day in Kampala. Let's have a look at this story.
Really scattered, surrounded by COVID, especially.
Uganda Tourism Board has since 13 years ago grown the number of tourist arrivals by 78%, from 844,000 in 2008 and 9 to 1,500,000 in 2018 and 19. This is slightly above global growth rates of 63% of the same period. As a result, sector foreign exchange earnings have nearly tripled, growing by more than 171% from US dollars 590 million to US dollars 1.6 billion in the same period. Reports from the Uganda Tourism Board indicates that currently tourism industry directly and indirectly creates 667,600 jobs, 77% of whom are the youth aged 18 to 30 years and accounts for 7.7% of the country's GDP. The executive director of the Uganda Planning Authority, Joseph Muvala, has called on the officials from the Uganda Tourism Board to prioritize constant sustainable growth, then after inclusive growth. He as well urged them to invest in development and marketing. He revealed this at the commemoration of the World Tourism Day 2 in Kampala and a theme, Tourism for Inclusive Growth.
So let us ask ourselves a question. Can we have inclusive growth if we don't have growth? Many people make a mistake. The most important thing, therefore, in that equation of growth is for you to first have sustainable growth, consistent. So let us ask ourselves the question, has the tourism sector been growing? I think that is a very simple answer. Yes. Has it grown sustainably? The answer has been yes until COVID. Will it grow? The answer is yes. You know you're going to have a base effect. The tourism sector is even going to grow faster because the base is going to be small. So people of statistics will start confusing you. The tourism sector now is growing at 30%. What does that mean? So what we are talking about here is that you must have consistent growth of the sector. Then that is now the necessary condition. The sufficient condition then is that you must have inclusive growth.
By 2024 to 25, the bearing for the effects of COVID-19, Uganda Tourism Board plans to grow international tourist arrivals from the key source markets, that is US, Europe, China, from 210,000 to 500,000 tourists, a core element in increasing Uganda's annual tourism revenues from 1.6 billion US dollars to 3.0 US dollars billion. This will increase the contribution of tourism to total employment from 6.3% to 10%, which is equivalent to 433,000 new jobs, or an increase from the current 667,600 jobs to 1,100,000 jobs. This will increase the total contribution of tourism to GDP from 7.7% to 9%.
We need to maintain and sustain economic growth because it is the first step of inclusiveness. So the first thing for us as a sector is that we must start growing again. Don't tell me about inclusion before I have anything to include. Let me first grow, then I will include. It is a process. I hear people talking about efficiency and effectiveness, and they forget one comes after the other. You can't be efficient unless you are effective. If an engine is not running, how do you say it's going to be efficient? It won't. So as a government, we must ensure that the tourism products in this country are growing, that the private sector is thriving. And what is the bad news, Honourable Minister? When I look at the numbers, they are very bad numbers. And I am good at giving bad news, but not giving very good solutions. They are very bad numbers. When I look at the Bankers Association, Honourable Minister, we have helped each and everybody. We haven't helped tourism yet.
Your Excellency, your Honourable Minister and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, finally, I just want to say that we have at Uganda Tourism Board, we have profiled the Equator, we have profiled Lake Victoria and River Nile. There is a lot of investment opportunity. We have identified where money can be, where the investment can happen. So if you are interested in these projects, please do reach out to us and we will be able to point you in the right direction.
Stephen Asime, the policy director to Private Sector Foundation, underscored the push for meetings, incentives, conferencing and exhibitions means for a comprehensive equability of the Ugandan tourism sector, as well as implementing a special tourism fund.
We badly need money. We need money, Vanange. We need cash. Hotels are suffering. Restaurants are suffering. Mr. Maitum, you gave a very good presentation on accessing money to them. But companies are crashing. I'm in charge of policy and business development. The statistics we are getting are very tough. So in terms of equitability, we badly need a Marshall Plan like the Americans employed in the EU. Because unless money comes into the economy, it's going to crash. Now, for purposes of planning, and Doctor, you talked about being scientific. Let's be scientific about tourism. Tourism has the highest earning capacity of any sector in the world. It actually earns 2.5 times more than any sector. When a tourist arrives, even before he comes, they pay visa money at the airport. They are transported by a cab. They get to Sheraton, they order for a beer, they pay for lunch, they go to the National Theatre, buy crafts, they use a tour vehicle. I mean, the value chain is incredible. I was in Mombasa 2 weeks ago for a conference where you participated on agribusiness. We are trying to bring, a discussion with our brothers and sisters in Kenya. I was in a hotel which I won't mention. It has close to 500 rooms capacity. And being the inquisitive person I am, I decided to go to the manager and ask about occupancy. Boss, the hotel was full because of mice. The Kenyan government has taken a deliberate policy to ensure that SOPs, number one, are observed, but two, let's create some business traction around the tourist areas so that they can increase capacity. The jobs are created. Kenya Airways was full, Jambo was full, the Standard Gauge Railway was full. There was action in Mombasa because government took a deliberate policy to ensure that there's a resuscitation of the economy. So can we please think proactively? We are seated here. We have done sanitizer. Let us start to push a mice policy domestically. Private sector should grab for that. There's a lot of government here, so people don't feel it. I think Mr. Mgereko knows that. We need to push a deliberate policy for people to do mice. Now, when you push mice, you push spending, and tourism is measured in the two S's. There is stay and spend, there is volumes and value. I can guarantee you, the moment there is a push, the money immediately trickles down. So sodas are drunk, so you have VAT, beer, food, transporters, insurance. Everybody starts to get a piece of the action. So
we have a fundamental problem which we have to discuss. And Mr. PS, I think you should call a program working group. Call all of us, call UPDF, call everybody. That's why we went for programs, that we bring everybody together who are supposed to deliver a result, working together to deliver that result. So if you call that meeting, we will discuss these issues. You cannot expect a long-term project to be financed by short-term financing. Fundamentally flawed. That's why we are pushing in the planning authority to put money in this institution. You know that I have been fighting that fight for a very long time. And this institution is now getting money. Unfortunately, we still need this institution to get an extra $1 trillion shillings. For them to give us credit at 8 and below, because 12 is too high. That's the truth.
World Tourism Day is observed on 27th September annually to raise awareness about the significance of tourism and how it affects social, political, cultural and economic values globally. The day is marked to highlight the importance of tourism sector in promoting and preserving cultures and heritage around the world. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24.
Sounds of Pedison Mumbere on that report. Now, Stephen Asimo, the policy director, has actually aligned the situation that as the sector foundation underscored the journey to push for meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions, what he dubbed as MICE, for comprehensive equability of the Ugandan tourism sector, as well as implementing a special tourism fund to boost the economic system in the way of promoting tourism, is a way to go. And the World Tourism Day, which was actually observed, it is actually observed 27th September annually, has actually been in a situation to see that every aspect is to utilize the available gaps. Now, with these particular conferences and incentives that come about, he did mention about the exhibitions. We need to put on board exhibitions to see that we encourage the young people, we encourage the youth out there, the young generation, to actually take action in joining tourism. I remember asking people yesterday, where have you toured before? You as a Ugandan, what have you laid on board to see that you can actually say you're promoting tourism in Uganda? Because it starts with us. As we're definitely saying, we're getting part of the tourism sector, tourism, the domestic tourism, as we are promoting it, we're always going to ask ourselves these questions. How are we taking part in the tourism? If wawe tulambudde omanyi waliwo ebintu wonna tunule waliwo conversations zohavinga n'abantu abamu nagamba nti ye okutwala emitwalo 25 n'aziteeka mu kulambula alaba kinene nnyo afazaali azikwata n'aziryamu kati nze nga nze alambuddeko ku ggwanga amanyi the beauty of travel. I will be honest and tell you, you see, there is nothing that beats tourism in terms of entertainment that comes to it. I've definitely seen entertainment nungi ndaba abantu waliwo omuntu omu ng'agamba nti government kastegulawo amabaala ye tolina kirala kyonnyumiza ebbaala liba bbaala. Nabawo omuntu agamba nti yewe wabaawo konsati y'omuyimbi aleka byonna ebirala. So if you look at tourism, and for people who have actually traveled for the first time, bajja kulaga nti they're already addictive to travel, because there is a lot of beautiful things to explore in Uganda. And with the Uganda Tourism Board, I would actually suggest, in my humble opinion, that the best way is to incite Ugandans. Like they did mention about, like Mr. Stephen Asimwe, the police director of the Private Sector Foundation, did mention of the fact that they should, the Uganda Tourism Board should use exhibitions. Exhibitions are more of, if you've heard of the agriculture exhibitions in the agriculture show that usually happened in Jinja. We used to have the annual Uganda Manufacturers Association Expo in Gogo during that Independence Week in October. So these are among these expos. If we can put these exhibitions in the tourism sector, you never know how much it's going to impact to the generation. And you never know how much of an impact it has on the country's economy. Bigenda yamba nnyo eggwanga, bigenda kuddaabulula economy yaffe okulaba nti tulina we tugiteeka. Tourism eri greatly affected olw'ensonga nti government yatuukanga mu situation nga ffenna amaaso tugatunuulizza abazungu. Nti nga omuzungu ate education system, simanyi oba kiri mu education system ya wano, nga ne waba osoma ku tourist attractions, there is a way gyekubamu nebanga tourist attractions are affiliated to the whites or the people from the foreign countries. Ng'omuntu amanya n'agamba nti abazungu bajja okulambula, kati oli wagamba abazungu bazze kulambula, nti nga gwe omuddugavu bakulaba nti gwe tosobola na kulambula, toli tourist. Kwegamba watuuka akaseera ne weebuuza n'ogamba nti kakati tourism kitegeeza ki? Omanyi tuyinza obeera nga tulowooza okutuwaringa. Tourism comes from tour, okulambula. Naye wetuba nga twekubira ekintu kyakwekubira omuntu ajja agambe nti owaayi nze siri muzungu, banda bantya nga ndi ku River Nile, banda bantya nga ngenze ku Mountain Renzori, simanya CP Falls cycling, CP Falls, ngenda ntya mu buggy jumping, kwegamba ogenda olaba ebintu bya kizungu nnyo n'okyejjako n'ogamba waayi nze sibisobola afazaali ŋŋendako mulwere Masaka eyo n'endya ssente ne zimpulira. But clearly bwewekanga ngaffe abannayuganda tourism eno it is part of us, and I think the government erina oteekawo idea nti domestic tourist companies have actually come up nyingi nnyo of late, and most of them have actually been established during this period of COVID. Naddala mu 2021 a number of them have actually targeted the youth, but targeted abavubuka balina ssente baagala enjoyment. So the idea is attract them, obaterewo entertainment in tourism, obagambe tugende Lake Mburo, let's go to Queen Elizabeth, let's head to the Maction Falls, let's head to Jinja, tugende ku Sipi Falls, let's go to Kasese, let's go to Fort Portal, let's head to let's head to different various areas, let's visit hot springs in Kasese. Kwegamba ogenda olaba abantu batandise okwengaginga in the available activities eziriwo olw'ensonga nti kati love weeri. But where does this love come from? Engaging these people in their activities. And I think as we are saying in the theme of inclusive growth, as we were celebrating the World Tourism Day, I think the Uganda Tourism Board should look up to that inclusive growth would actually involve the Ugandan citizens. Kuba tujja tuka kaseera nga tusobola okujja ssente mu bannayuganda okusinga ze tufuna ne mu bazungu. Nevertheless, we can't rule out the foreign exchange. But imagine if the population that we're having in Uganda takes part in making sure that they tour the various destinations in Uganda, ne batandika okulambula the beauty in Uganda, ne bateekamu ssente ezo. Kuba ndabye trip ezisinga abantu abamu batravelinga for 3 days, abamu ne batravelinga, people pay roughly 350 to 400, 600,000. What on a trip ezimu instead of buy like once a year, it is like 1 million. This is generating money to the lodges that they are going to sleep, the time they are going to spend, the tourist sites there is. Because wona abazungu tebajja kujja buli weekend. Bajja mu mwezi tulinamu abazungu batono abagenda okujja, tebajja kujja babeere scattered in different areas. Nature inomanya nti every weekend at least Ugandans are traveling now. And it's more of a blessing in disguise. And they were used to concerts. Now they are used to traveling to the tour sites. And I definitely think as we are still in the tourism week, I call it the tourism week, to everyone who has actually taken part to promoting tourism in Uganda by traveling, kudos to you and thank you for making sure you are promoting tourism, to all the tour companies across Uganda and those that have actually made it part of them to see that they promote tourism in Uganda. Make sure that you are definitely giving room for everyone to actually take part in the inclusive growth of the tourism sector. And do remember, tourism is part of us. Buying Uganda and building Uganda comes with everything and comes with a lot more and a lot more beyond what we are apparently seeing. My name is Joram Paul Sonko. You can follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Joram Paul Sonko. And later on, we shall also maybe include my WhatsApp number or even my mobile money account, where you can actually tap some mobile money for me as well. You can also follow our services on YouTube, on YouTube, that is Smart24 Space Live, Smart24 TV Space Live. Hit the subscription button. And also use the website www.smart24tv as our official website to get more services as well. Do follow us on our social media platforms, Smart24 TV everywhere. This is Smart Means Business, and I'm Joram Paul Sonko. Goodbye.